So when I was younger, I had a great amount of respect for game developers and those who deal with balance. I was under the impression that these game developers, nay geniuses, were constantly solving a multivariable differential equation, perfectly balancing each and every element of the game. Well, I've grown up a little now, and DICE has definitely changed my whole view of things. No longer are these developers geniuses in my mind. They're just a bunch of chimpanzees mindlessly changing values just for the heck of it, and today we're going to be going over DICE's latest Picasso-esque masterpiece in Update 3.2. There is a lot of good in this update, but there's a lot of what the fuck. Alright, so we got patch 3.2 coming into the game very soon. I thought we'd look over it because it's one of the biggest patches, if not the biggest, that we've seen so far in 2042. And this is probably the patch that's going to bring a lot of players back because people wanted the class system in Battlefield, rightfully so. And this is going to be bringing the class system into 2042. So we're going to be going over this patch. I won't really waste any of you guys' time with the stuff that doesn't matter, but we will definitely go over the stuff that does matter. So starting with the class system, right? So we're going to bring back all the classes from Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 5, basically just the Assault, the Support, Engineer, and Recon, which is really cool to see again. Assault's going to be Dozer, McKay, Sundance, and Zane. You're going to have a med pen on all these characters, which is quite interesting. So they're maintaining the McKay med pen thing, which is very, very strong right now. And you're going to have C5 armor plates, claymores, and smoke launchers. Now, Engineer, you can read it here, just Boris Crawford Liz. As a vehicle player, you're going to want to shoot these characters first. That's going to help you survive massively. My biggest issue with no class system in 2042 was that the game was very hard to read. I made a video talking about this a long time ago, or maybe it was part of another review kind of video, the issues with specialists, basically. And back in Battlefield 4, you'll like bust through a wall on a tank with your thermals up, and you can tell instantly who's Engineer, who's not. You need to be able to shoot the Engineer straight away, and you're going to survive and be able to maintain that push. In this game, you have no idea who has what. Who has a rocket launcher, who has like med pens. You just don't get much information in 2042. So now that they're adding just a very, very clear Engineer class, and those guys are going to have, you know, AT Mine, C5, EOD bot, Javelin, recoilless, and stingers. It's very, very important now that you know exactly who's going to be carrying what. Recon as well. It's going to be good to know like who can have a PLD or soft land, what do you want to call it. Tracer dart's going to be very strong against vehicles. C5 as well on this class, so it gives you a lot more readability to the game. And as an infantry player as well, you can kind of tell what you're going to be going against. Let's say if you see a Pike, you know that she's going to have a lot of regen, and she can always play from behind cover and heal herself. Now, there's also going to be weapon proficiencies, so each different class is going to be able to use different weapons with a little bit more strength. Assault gets assault rifles, of course. They get 3 extra magazines, which is potentially why, we're going to go into this later, but they are nerfing the drum mags, and potentially this is why that they're nerfing the drum mags, because they're going to get extra magazines, which kind of gets rid of the downsides of a drum mag. Honestly, the two strongest synergies here are Assault with assault rifles. 3 extra mags is huge. And you're going to have Support and SMGs, faster draw time. Draw time is really important in Battlefield. But Breakaway is probably going to be the best map rework we're going to see yet. Mainly because Breakaway is actually a salvageable map. A lot of these reworks on maps that are so bad that no matter how many sandbags and containers you add, they're not going to be good. The map's not going to get that much better. Let's say they add a bunch of sandbags to all the sand dunes on Hourglass. It's still a bad map, alright? Whereas Breakaway actually has the potential to go from like a alright map to quite a good one. So glad to see that they're doing this, and we're going to have to see how it plays out. Coming into thermal scopes, it's quite interesting. They've actually added 3 to thermal scopes, so it's not just one, and it's not just a scope. You got like a thermal sight, which is this 1.25. You'll be able to use this on like any AR, and it'll be pretty much no downsides to it. I feel like this is going to be really strong. It might be a no-brainer even. And you got the 2.5 times thermal that's coming in. This is available on some assault rifles, and it's more of like a DMR type one. And then finally, the 6 times thermal scope. They recently nerfed the railgun, but this is like high-key a big railgun buff because you can just sit at the back of the map. You're already running a 6x on the railgun, and you're pretty much always hard scoping. So it doesn't matter if you lose ADS speed with the railgun. So 6x thermal on the railgun. I'm going to be using this. It's probably going to be really strong. New suppressor coming into the game, just for the shotgun though, so I don't really care about that. We have APS for the tanks. So currently the tank meta is to play Irish and then place down APSs. But if I'm not wrong, Irish is a support character. I'll have to check that. I think the meta still will be having a dedicated repairman and also having an Irish as the driver, or vice versa, whatever you want to have. Just a repairman and an Irish on a tank with APS. It's going to be very, very hard to kill those things. They're not adding the APS to the Wildcat by the looks of things though, just the 2 MBTs, which is good. And I think this is going to bump tanks into being a lot more viable. Also getting below radar for air vehicles. I believe I put a document together when the game first came out, just all the changes I make to air vehicles. And very, very slowly, we are actually getting to all the changes that I've actually asked for, which is really cool. It's not me doing this. It's like the whole community wants a lot of these changes. So I just make that clear. But it's very cool to see things that the community wants coming into the game, and that is below radar. It's only going to apply to vehicle-based lock-ons. So basically, let's say a heli pushes you from high ground, you have no flares. You can get down low. He's still going to have the height advantage. He still has a very big advantage in that fight, but he can't lock you anymore, which is really good. And they're also reducing the height ceiling for the helicopters. This is also in the document that I sent to DICE. Basically, when you're at the height ceiling, a jet versus a helicopter, the only way that the jet can really beat a helicopter is a top-down attack. But if the heli comes up to the height ceiling, there's nothing the jet can do. The heli just has much more firepower. And any decent heli user versus a decent jet, the heli will win 100% of the time. So they've actually finally nerfed the height limit to the helicopters, which also prevents them from just going outside of range from the lock-ons as well, which is really, really good. Doesn't affect jets. Jets are still going to be able to go really, really high, which is nice. And they can actually finally top down helicopters again. Slight jet buff there. We got the new Volt weapons. Honestly, Volt weapons are always kind of mid because they don't have the extended mags and all the base game attachments on them. But we got the M39, MTAR, and the PP2000. So now we're getting into the juice, the major part of the patch, and that is the changelog. Now, the Stinger actually got a faster acceleration and top speed, which is going to mess with pilots just a little bit because we kind of know roughly how much time we have to dodge and how to dodge missiles with the current Stinger. Now they've just increased this a bit. Not sure how much faster it's going to be, but this is kind of an unnecessary buff, I'm not going to lie. Stingers in 2042 are like the strongest Stingers we've ever had in Battlefield, so yeah, I don't know how necessary this is. And also you can now lock onto empty vehicles. A trick I was using for a while was to hop out of the helicopter if people were locking onto me and then they just can't lock me anymore. They've actually finally fixed that, so can't really do that anymore. Now moving on to the recoilless M5. So in a podcast, DICE actually did say that the launches in 2042 were apparently like the weakest ever in Battlefield. And I've played since BF3, and I think it's clear that the launches in this game are the strongest ever. Like, I would say the opposite. Alright, so finally we've got down to something that's relevant, and that is the soldier stuff. There's a few soldier changes that are coming in, and it's going to be pretty interesting, I think. So, soldier health starts automatically regenerating 1 second after being revived at the passive health regeneration rate. So, I'm not sure if that's a change to how it is. Like, it was obviously a change, but I don't know what it used to be before this. It seems like you're going to get health a little bit earlier after getting revived. But the big one is that squad revives are now going to be just 25 HP. So it's going to be a huge buff to those support characters because they're going to give full 100 health revives. Now the sentry gun, this is going to be interesting. It highlights the name tags when he hits people for his squad mates. And the ammo caliber has actually changed now, and it will do damage to any vehicle. It deals about 0.6 to 0.8% damage per shot. That is quite interesting. Is this thing just going to aimbot helicopters for the whole match? Imagine playing with, let's say, like 20 or 30 Borises on a team, all running Stingers and all running sentries. You could just have like a bunch of like balloons tower defense, like monkeys basically, and they're just going to shoot everything down. That's how I see it, honestly. It's going to pop the vehicles like balloons. We'll have to see how that works. And now it has a different target prioritization, and it's going to target the vehicles actually. And then if the infantry comes within 25 meters, it will actually target the infantry. This is really, really interesting. Again, it's going to be great for infantry players, no longer having to deal with these turrets basically, because they're not going to really care about infantry as long as there's a vehicle in sight. But for vehicles, this could be very, very interesting, and it'll be funny, I'm not going to lie. Liz she's the strongest specialist in the game. I've said it since release. I said she was going to be busted as soon as the players figure out how to use her. They're figuring it out now. They're still not amazing with it, but a lot of players are figuring it out. And she's the strongest. She is so strong, especially if you can just go into your Razer software or something, a Logitech software, and put a little DPI switch on your mouse, and you can turn that thing way faster, or even up your vehicle sense. But you can get a lot of speed and turn rate out of Liz missiles. You can shoot tanks from like behind cover, even if they're really close to you. She's just insanely strong right now, man. Like, definitely one of the best specialists. Even to the point where if tank APSs and you shoot a little Liz missile at the tank, you can actually curve it away from the tank, bring it around up vertically, and then hit the tank again. I was expecting a nerf for this character, but we have seen a buff. So she's going to get a lot more range, 600 meter range now. She's going to get a like a nerf to her armor hunter, which basically highlights vehicles. This isn't even that strong anyway. No one really cares about that. There's also, they've reduced the air vehicle range of the vehicle hunter to 300 meters, which is fine. It doesn't really matter that much. Like, this isn't the strongest part about Liz. The strongest part is her range, her damage, which is going to remain as one shot, and her speed. And they're going to increase the speed of the Liz missile when it's boosted to 150 meters per second from 100. That's a 50% speed boost. It's going to be pretty crazy. And they've also increased the hitbox of the missile by 20%. Does that mean that you don't have to hit it as precisely? Because the Liz missile, we're going to talk about this right now, actually. So, one of the biggest issues with Liz missiles, and this is the part that I wish that they would fix straight away, because it's the most frustrating bit, is the desync. The Liz missile is never, like almost never, where it looks like it is. It might be close to where it looks like it is if the user isn't swinging it really hard, but if the Liz user is turning the missile extremely hard, it's going to be in a totally different place to where it looks like it is. So you can't actually shoot it down if they're turning it hard, because it's not there on your screen. Even though it looks like it's there, that's not actually where it's being rendered as in-game. So I don't know if that makes sense, but this clip definitely does make sense. So that's from Ash. He has a lot of Liz clips that he's been collecting, and he's been asking them to nerf it for ages. Missile comes in, and it hits his helicopter, right? But here's the issue. Does the missile hit the helicopter here? Gonna skip until the missile gets nice and close. That missile is almost off Ash's screen. Here, up here. You can see where my mouse is? That is the Liz missile. He has well and truly dodged that. It is that far away that you cannot even see the name tag on the Liz missile. Like, it is truly dodged. Bang. That's a hit. It doesn't make sense. And you might say this is a one-off clip. This is not a one-off clip. This happens almost every single time you get hit by a Liz missile. Sometimes it's pretty much exactly where it looks like it is, but sometimes, and very often, it is definitely not there. It's going to be interesting. They've also fixed it for controller players, so they're going to be more effective with Liz missiles. And overall, like, all things considered, there's a few little nerfs here. Like, few little nerfs. But I'd say it's pretty much just a straight buff to Liz. This is what happens when you listen to Reddit. Every single player who knows what they're talking about it. Like, we're talking about, like, I'll go on Ender's Twitter, for example, right? Enders is an infantry player. He doesn't really touch the helicopters. He would benefit from the helicopters being worse. But he says Rao and Liz buffs are unneeded, right? And I think I've seen this so many times on Twitter by now. It's insane that people actually wanted Liz to be buffed. And it's even more insane that DICE has listened and they've actually done that. So, rant over, I'll stop complaining. We'll see if it's fixed in the actual update. Maybe they fix the desync. If the desync is fixed, cool. I'll deal with it, right? Anyways, Rao is getting buffed. And the main thing that is getting buffed on him, we don't care about the little slight, tiny little nerfs here. Doesn't really matter. The main thing is that now when Rao hacks someone, they are also painted like a soft land. So you can hack, they can't flare, and then the whole team can lock onto them. Before, the only thing that would really get you is the recoilless, and that was extremely strong. And the reason why it's so strong is because it had a higher velocity. So you shoot the recoilless, and even if you flare, it's already coming at you with such a high speed, it's probably going to hit. They've actually buffed the velocity, so it's probably going to hit through flares even more now. And now you have a javelin, which can lock over walls. It will go straight up, over the wall, and down onto the helicopter. So it's going to be really interesting to fly. I might even take a little vacation from flying. I'm actually going on holiday pretty soon, so enjoy dealing with this stuff, guys. But I'm going to be on vacation because this is pretty ridiculous. All right, so now we're getting into the vehicle changes. There's a few things that really matter here. AGMs are getting a buff, so they're probably going to two-shot bolties now. That's the main thing that I see is going to change. And they're not really getting a buff against the heavy kind of vehicles, so it's going to be better. A little buff for jets and helicopters among all these nerfs that are coming through, which I'm not fussed about, by the way. I don't really mind. I like playing infantry as well, so I can see the positives. But some of these changes are going to be undeniably frustrating. Now, moving down, vehicles are also only going to be able to lock on when they have ammo to do so. This is just going to make it a little bit more clunky when firing missiles at tanks. It's not the biggest deal, though. I don't really mind. It's going to take away some of that lock-on spam, which is nice to know. It's going to be nice for everyone playing vehicles, really. And turret speeds, they've been buffed massively. I think it's like a 2 times buff or something like that for the tanks. That's a very like small part of the patch notes, but this is actually one of the biggest changes, so don't miss that. That's a really big change. The rail tank, right? I was expecting a massive nerf for this rail tank, but they're just fixing issues. It's all right, guys. The rail tank's fine. And I just thought I'd show you guys this video from the GOAT. Jesus tier 1 the rail tank in like 2 days or something. So this montage is Jesus spawning into his rail tank and killing the vehicles off spawn. So let's just have a look at this. I'll turn the volume down real quick. Spawns in his rail tank. You know, he's ready to go. Looks up at the aircraft spawn. Oh, hello, Jet. Bop, you're dead. And then, oh, may as well kill the helicopter as well. What? Bop, you're dead. It's a whole montage. It's like 2 minutes of just him spawning in, sees something. Oh, bop, you're dead. Unlucky. It's fun to watch, but it sucks to play against. Oh, he missed the shot. That's rare. I've played with this guy. This is not like just montage stuff. He does this all day, bro. Like, he literally does this all day. It's that easy for him. Oh, whoa, across the map, mate. Oh, wow, that was a long shot. Wait, how long was that? See, you get the point, right? This vehicle was said to be balanced by DICE. They think it's balanced. I assure you that's not the case. I assure you that's not the case. This thing is just ridiculous. Hit scan one-shot rail tank. I don't get it, but they're not going to nerf it, so that's fine. Alright, so moving along, we have it's supposed to be super hind here, but it says super hokum. Basically, the hind and the condor are going to be getting looks like a little buff, so the replenish rate is going to be reduced to 4.5 seconds from 6. So you're going to be able to get 50 mil cannons a little bit faster. Did the hind and the condor need a buff? No. They have the strongest vehicles in the game. But this is classic DICE right here, guys. They're going to buff the best stuff, and they're going to nerf the worst stuff. That's kind of just what they do. Moving on, we got a Nightbird nerf. I encourage this. I really do encourage a pod nerf, which is what this is. They're basically almost halving the blast damage from the pods, which is just awesome. And they're also reducing the replenish rate. And they're also massively reducing the ammo count. So you can probably kill like 2 or 3 infantry and 10 rockets. Now with this nerf though, maybe 1 infantry or 2 infantry with 10 rockets. Great nerf get those. Like, I actually really encourage rocket pod nerf. They're just frustrating to die to, so I'm happy with that. Now, it looks like the stealth helis have also got a slight buff to the tow missiles, which is nice. But they also have a pretty decent nerf. Now you have to choose whether you're going to repair or flare. The stealth heli was the worst helicopter in the game. Like, it was literally the worst attack heli. So that's basically the patch. There's definitely a lot of good stuff that's changed, but there's also a lot of really questionable things, as always, with DICE. We're going to have to see how it plays out. Another thing that I didn't really talk about too much, and I probably should have, is there's going to be a mouse input fix as well. Hopefully that's the end of the mouse input fixes. Again, I don't really want to talk about stuff like that too much until we actually test it, because it might be totally placebo. They might not have even changed anything with mouse input, and they may have just said that. DICE has actually done placebo patches before, so we're going to have to test a few things there. We're going to have to test pretty much everything in this patch, because a lot of interesting stuff is happening, but overall it's a step in the right direction. Just going to be a little bit more painful for air players in particular. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think yourselves, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.